Tonight, as the day loosens its hold on you, and the noise of the world begins to soften at the edges, let yourself settle into a quieter place. Let your breathing slow a little. Let your shoulders rest. Let the thoughts that have been circling all evening begin very gently to widen and drift, like clouds moving across a dark and peaceful sky. There is nothing you need to solve right now. There is nothing you need to prove. There is nothing you need to carry alone through the night. Tonight we are entering a story shaped by stillness. It is a story that unfolds under evening skies, in the hush of worship, in the quietness of sleep, and in the tender mercy of God. It is the story of Solomon asking for wisdom in the night, not with noise, not with confidence in himself, but with humility, with need, and with a heart that knows it must listen. Perhaps that is why this story is such a gentle place to rest, because some nights what we need most is not 100 answers. What we need is a listening heart, a heart that can become quiet enough to notice God, a heart that does not rush ahead of Him, a heart that does not lean only on its own tired understanding, a heart that can say, even in weakness, Lord, show me the way. So tonight, imagine the world dimming into sacred quiet. The sun has gone down, the air has cooled, the pathways are still. The hills around Gibeon rest beneath a deepening sky. The last light is fading from stone and field. Soft shadows gather, lamps flicker low, and somewhere in that holy hush, a young king is preparing to sleep. In this story, he is not wrapped in noise and splendor. He is not a distant figure made only of gold and ceremony. He is a man with responsibility pressing heavily on his soul. He has inherited more than a position. He has inherited a people to lead, a calling to walk carefully in, and a life that cannot be guided by pride and still be whole. Beneath the responsibilities others can see, there is something quieter, something more human, something the Lord sees clearly. There is uncertainty. There is tenderness. There is a heart that knows it does not know enough. A heart that needs wisdom more than applause. And that need, that honest and humble need, is where this beautiful night begins. So come softly into the stillness of Gibeon. Let your mind rest there. Let the story hold you. Let the night be slow. Let the silence be kind. And as we begin, remember this. The God who met Solomon in the quiet of the night is still the God who comes near to hearts that seek Him. He is not troubled by your need. He is not wearied by your questions. He is not impatient with your weakness. The Lord is gentle with those who come to Him honestly. He is near to the one who says, I need your wisdom. He is near to the one who whispers, lead me. He is near to the listening heart. So now, with the world around you dim and still, let us enter the story. Let us walk slowly into the night at Gibeon. Let us watch the hush settle over the place of worship. Let us listen for the moment when heaven draws close in a dream. And if your own heart has been tired, or anxious, or overfull, let this story become a resting place for you. You do not have to push your way through it. You only have to receive it, like cool air through an open window, like moonlight settling on the floor, like peace. The road to Gibeon had grown quiet by the time evening deepened. The movement of the day was fading now. Voices that had once carried through the open spaces had softened. Footsteps had slowed. The tasks and concerns of daylight no longer pressed with the same urgency. The earth itself seemed to be exhaling, releasing the heat and weight of the sun, settling under the mercy of night. Gibeon was a place of reverence, known for worship, a place where offerings had been brought before the Lord. And Solomon had come there with intention, not to display himself, not to be admired, but to seek the Lord. There is something so tender in that. Before the dream, before the question, before the answer, there is worship. There is turning toward God. There is a heart moving, as best it can, in the direction of the Lord. Solomon loved the Lord. Scripture tells us that plainly, and there's quiet beauty in that small truth. For all that would one day be said about his wisdom, the story begins not with brilliance, but with love. Not with achievement, but with devotion. Not with self-assurance, but with a soul that knows the Lord is the one worth seeking. Maybe that is a comfort to you tonight, because love is often quieter than people think. Love does not always arrive with grand emotion. Sometimes love is simply this: turning toward God at the end of the day, bringing your need to Him, choosing His presence over your own restless striving. Solomon came to Gibeon, and there he offered sacrifices before the Lord. We do not have to rush past this part. We can linger here in the sacred and ordinary beauty of a heart that comes to worship. The smoke of the offering had risen into the evening air. The light would have trembled softly against stone. The sounds around the place of worship would have gradually grown fewer and fewer. And after the offering, after the reverence, after the holy act of coming before God, night laid its gentle hand over the land. What a quiet moment that must have been. Not empty, never empty, but full in the way only holy stillness can be full. It was the kind of stillness that does not frighten the soul, but steadies it. The kind of stillness where a person becomes aware of how small they are, and yet how seen. The kind of stillness where the heart begins to tell the truth. Solomon was a young king. He had stepped into a place once filled by his father David, a man deeply known in the story of God's people. There is tenderness in imagining what Solomon must have felt. To inherit a throne is one thing. To inherit a calling before God is another. One may look impressive from the outside. The other humbles you from within. He was surrounded by a people he was meant to lead, a people beloved by God, a people numerous, living under covenant, carrying promises far older than Solomon himself. What does a young man do with that kind of trust placed in his hands? What does a person do when the path in front of them is larger than their own wisdom? What does anyone do when tomorrow asks more of them than they feel prepared to give? This is where Solomon becomes very easy to understand. Perhaps not in his status, but in his need, because many hearts know that feeling. The feeling of lying down at the end of the day with responsibilities still pressing softly inside. The feeling of knowing that others expect steadiness from you. The feeling of wanting to do what is right, and also knowing how limited your own understanding can be. The feeling of standing at the edge of tomorrow and quietly wondering, Lord, how am I supposed to walk this well? If you have ever felt that, then you are not far from Solomon tonight. He may have worn a crown, but beneath it was a human heart, a heart that could feel its limits, a heart that could sense the weight of calling, a heart that needed God. And the beautiful thing is this: God is never offended by honest meed. The Lord does not turn away from the soul that knows it cannot guide itself perfectly. He does not despise humility. He is drawn again and again to truth in the inward being. So Solomon comes to Gibeon, not as one who has mastered everything, but as one who must seek the Lord. As evening deepens, the scene grows quieter still. The lamps burn lower. The sky darkens into velvet blue, then deeper, then almost black, except for the scattered, patient light of stars. The air is cooler now. The ground still holds the memory of warmth, but the night begins to lay its peace over everything. Those nearby have grown silent. The sacred place rests. The sounds of offering and movement have passed. Only stillness remains. And in that stillness, Solomon prepares to sleep. Maybe he lies down with the scent of the evening still in the air. Maybe the last thoughts in his mind are a mixture of reverence and uncertainty. Maybe he remembers his father. Maybe he thinks of the people. Maybe he feels the quiet ache of wanting to lead well, to judge rightly, to walk faithfully. Maybe no words are formed at all. Maybe only the inward posture remains. Lord, I am here. It is enough to imagine that posture. A soul turned toward God at the end of the day. There are some prayers that are spoken aloud, and there are some prayers that are simply carried into sleep. This may have been one of those nights. Before we go further, let everything slow again. Let your breathing become easy and unforced. Imagine the night air resting over Gibeon. Imagine the stars holding their places in silence. Imagine the earth beneath Solomon, still and cool, the holy hush all around him. And you do not need to hurry through this night. You are safe here in the stillness of the story. Solomon sleeps, and the night does not feel empty. It feels watched over. It feels held. It feels like the kind of night in which heaven is nearer than a person knows. This is one of the mysteries of the Lord's tenderness. He often comes close when the noise has fallen away. He often speaks when the world has finally grown still enough for the soul to listen. Not always in the ways we expect, not always in daylight, not always through what the world would call strength, but in quiet ways, in holy ways, in the night, in dreams, in the softened places of the heart. And as Solomon sleeps at Gibeon, the story opens into one of those holy moments. The Lord appears to him in a dream. The dream does not come to startle us tonight. It does not rush in with harshness. It comes with sacred clarity, a calm brightness, and a sense that this moment is held entirely in the wisdom of God. How do we imagine it? Perhaps the darkness of sleep becomes luminous, not with the glare of day, but with a softer kind of light, a dreamlike glow, a stillness inside the dream that is even deeper than the stillness of the night outside it. The kind of stillness that lets every word fall gently and clearly. And in that dream, the Lord speaks. It is a question, simple and astonishing. Ask what I shall give you. How quiet and vast those words feel. Not shouted, not forced, offered. Ask, what shall I give you? What tenderness there is in that invitation. God speaks as one who knows the heart and yet welcomes it to speak. He does not rush Solomon. He does not burden him with many conditions before the question is asked. He opens a space. He invites. He lets Solomon come honestly. Ask what I shall give you. If we let those words rest softly in our minds for a moment, they become almost overwhelming in their gentleness, because they reveal something beautiful about the heart of God. The Lord is not only the one who commands, He is also the one who invites. He is not only the one who sees our need before we speak it, He is also the one who lovingly draws us into conversation. And what a revealing question this is, not because God does not know Solomon's heart already, but because the question brings the heart into the light. What do you desire, Solomon? What do you reach for when heaven is near? What do you ask when you stand before the Lord? Perhaps, as you listen tonight, the question hovers gently over your own weary heart too. Not to pressure you, not to expose you harshly, but to invite your soul into the quiet presence of God. What would you ask from the Lord if your heart were completely still before Him? Sometimes we think the deepest problem of our lives is that we do not have enough answers. But often, the deeper problem is that we have not become quiet enough to know what we most truly need. This is one reason the night can be such a tender place. At night, pretense grows tired. At night, the soul becomes more honest. At night, even the strongest among us may feel how deeply we need God. And there, inside the dream, Solomon is given a holy moment of honesty. The Lord has made space for his heart to speak. It is a moment full of possibility, a moment where many desires could have come forward: long life, safety, power, ease, success. We know from the Lord's response that such things were possible to ask for. But Solomon does not begin there. He begins elsewhere. He begins with remembrance. He begins with gratitude. He begins by speaking of the Lord's faithfulness. That too is beautiful, because a listening heart often remembers before it asks. It remembers who God has been. It remembers mercy. It remembers covenant love. Inside the dream, Solomon answers the Lord by recalling his steadfast love shown to David, his father. He speaks of the kindness God has already given, the faithfulness that has already marked the family line, the mercy that has not failed. What a restful thing it is to begin there, not with fear, not with panic, not with grasping, but with remembering. Sometimes the soul settles most deeply when it remembers what God has already done. You may not know every step in front of you. You may not understand the whole road. But memory becomes a soft pillow for faith. The Lord has been kind before. The Lord has been faithful before. The Lord has not abandoned his people. The Lord has not forgotten. Solomon answers from that place. He remembers David. He remembers that the Lord had shown him great love. He remembers covenant mercy. And then, with humility, he tells the truth about himself. He says, in essence, I am only a little child. I do not know how to go out or come in. It is one of the most tender confessions in Scripture, not because Solomon was literally a child at that moment, but because before the holy weight of his calling, he felt small. He felt unready. He felt his own inexperience. He did not pretend maturity he did not possess. He did not perform confidence before God. He admitted need. What a gentle relief there is in that, because the world often rewards performance. The world often teaches us to hide our limits, to speak as though we are certain when we are not, and to act as though we know the way when inwardly we are asking for light. But before God, Solomon does not perform. He tells the truth. I do not know how to go out or come in. There are many ways to hear that sentence. It sounds like leadership uncertainty, yes, but it also sounds like the language of anyone who has looked at life and whispered, Lord, I do not know how to do this without you. I do not know how to move wisely. I do not know how to carry this well. I do not know how to make the path straight by myself. I do not know how to shepherd what has been placed in my care unless you guide me. What a safe confession that is in the presence of God. Not a confession of despair, not a confession of worthlessness, but a confession of dependence. And dependence in the kingdom of God is not failure. It is the beginning of wisdom. Before we listen to Solomon's request, let your own heart rest for a moment in that truth. You do not have to know everything tonight. You do not have to untangle every thread before sleep. You do not have to carry tomorrow by the strength of your own understanding. Imagine a quiet path beneath a sky filled with stars. You can only see a little of it, only the next small stretch, and yet the Lord is there. That is enough for this moment. Let your heart rest there. Back inside the dream, Solomon continues. He speaks of the people of Israel, God's people, a great people, too many to be numbered or counted. He knows he is not being asked to care for something small. He knows leadership is not an ornament. It is not a place for vanity. It is stewardship. It is service. It is responsibility before the Lord. And in that awareness, the true request rises from his heart. Give your servant an understanding heart to govern your people, to discern between good and evil. A listening heart. That is the center of the whole night. That is the jewel hidden within the dream. That is the beauty the listener is meant to rest in. A listening heart, not merely intelligence, not cleverness, not the kind of sharpness that impresses others, but a heart that listens, a heart that can hear what is right, a heart that can receive wisdom from God, a heart that does not race ahead with its own impulses, a heart that pauses, attends, discerns, and walks carefully. What a peaceful thing wisdom becomes when it is described that way. Not strain, not brilliance under pressure, but listening. There is something deeply restful in the thought that true wisdom begins with listening. Listening to God, listening for what is good, listening with humility, listening with reverence, listening with a desire to serve well. Perhaps this is why the story feels so healing at night, because many burdens grow heavier in the dark when we think everything depends on our own ability to figure it all out. But the wisdom Solomon asks for is not self-manufactured. It is received. It is given by God. It begins not in anxious effort, but in surrender. Give your servant a listening heart. We can almost hear the hush around those words. Inside the dream, there is no scrambling, no defensiveness, no reaching for treasures that cannot quiet the soul. There is only a humble request for the kind of inner life that can walk with God, and the Lord is pleased. But before we arrive there, let us stay a little longer with Solomon's request, because it opens a path toward Proverbs, toward that deep and peaceful stream of wisdom language that has comforted weary hearts for generations. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. How gently those truths settle into this moment. Solomon is not leaning on his own understanding. He is confessing that his own understanding is not enough. He is acknowledging the Lord. He is turning toward Him. He is asking for the path to be made straight, not by force, not by pride, but by divine wisdom. This is what wisdom looks like in its beginning. Not a person standing tall in self-sufficiency, but a person bowing inwardly before God. Not a soul saying, "I have enough light of my own," but a soul saying, "Lord, be my light." Not a heart clinging tightly to control, but a heart opening like quiet hands. Give your servant a listening heart. Maybe tonight you do not need a complicated prayer. Maybe this is enough. Lord, give me a listening heart, a heart that listens instead of spirals, a heart that receives instead of grasps, a heart that becomes quiet enough to follow you, a heart that can recognize peace, a heart that does not worship its own understanding. There is great gentleness in such a prayer, and there is great safety in the God who hears it. Inside the dream, Solomon's words remain simple, reverent, and honest. He does not ask for a softer assignment. He asks for grace to carry it well. He does not ask for escape from responsibility. He asks for the inward wisdom needed to serve faithfully within it. That matters, because sometimes we imagine peace as the absence of all weight. But often biblical peace is something more beautiful. It is the presence of God within the weight. It is steadiness within responsibility. It is quiet guidance in the middle of real life. It is the Lord teaching the heart how to walk. And that is exactly the kind of gift Solomon seeks, not the removal of the people he must lead, not the end of decisions, not the disappearance of complexity, but wisdom, discernment, a listening heart. You can almost feel how lovely this request is to the Lord. A king asking not, "How can I exalt myself?" but, "How can I serve your people well?" A young man asking not, "How can I secure myself?" but, "How can I discern what is right?" A servant asking not, "How can I be admired?" but, "How can I listen?" And if you have ever worried that God may be distant from your small, sincere prayers, Let this scene comfort you. The Lord notices what the heart reaches for. He sees what you seek when given the chance to ask. He knows the desires beneath the surface, and a desire for wisdom, for goodness, and for a listening heart is precious to him. Perhaps that is why the story glows so softly. Not because it is grand, but because it is clean. Not because it is loud, but because it is true. It shows us a human heart in the right posture before God, not perfect, not all-knowing, but turned toward the one who is. The dream holds steady around Solomon. The Lord listens. The night is full of holy stillness. And then comes one of the most comforting lines in the whole passage. It pleased the Lord. Just that. It pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this. What a beautiful sentence to rest under. The Lord was pleased, not irritated. Pleased, not indifferent. Pleased, not cold. Pleased with a request for wisdom. Pleased with humility. Pleased with a heart that wanted to listen. That line alone can soothe a tired soul, because many people carry unspoken fears about God at night. Will he be disappointed in me? Will he be distant from me? Will he grow weary of my need? But here the Lord is pleased by honest dependence. He delights in the heart that does not pretend. He delights in the soul that seeks wisdom over self-exaltation. He delights in humility that comes to him empty-handed and asks to be filled. Let yourself breathe there for a moment. It pleased the Lord, maybe even now, in ways quieter than you can measure. The Lord is pleased when you turn toward him instead of away. Pleased when you seek wisdom instead of control. Pleased when you ask for a heart that listens. Pleased when you trust him more than your own restless thoughts. Pleased when you come honestly. The Lord responds to Solomon with tenderness and abundance. Because you have asked this, he says in essence, because you did not ask for long life for yourself, or riches for yourself, or the life of your enemies, but asked for understanding to discern what is right. Behold, I now do according to your word. I give you a wise and discerning mind, and more than that, I give what you did not ask for as well. There is no harshness in the Lord's answer. There is clarity. There is generosity. There is the warmth of divine pleasure. He names what Solomon did not seek. Not long life for himself, not riches for himself, and not the death of enemies. Those are such revealing contrasts, and we do not need to dwell on them in a heavy way tonight. It is enough to notice that the Lord values the kind of desire that turns away from self-centered grasping and reaches instead for wisdom. The dream becomes, for us, a quiet mirror. What are the desires that most deeply shape us? What would we ask when no one else is listening? What does the soul reach for when the Lord draws near? Solomon's answer teaches us something gentle and lasting. The soul is safest when it most wants to be aligned with God. The heart is most at peace when it seeks wisdom before possession. The path is most beautiful when it begins with listening. And the Lord answers in a way that reveals his own heart. God is not stingy. He is not reluctant to give what leads his children toward life. He does not guard wisdom as though he resents being asked for it. He delights to give it. He delights to shape the inward life. He delights to answer the prayer for a listening heart. And in his kindness, he even promises beyond the request. Riches and honor, things Solomon did not ask for, are added by the Lord's own decision. But notice how the center of the story remains unchanged. The glow of the passage does not rest on wealth. It rests on wisdom. It does not rest on outward abundance. It rests on the kind of heart God was pleased with. That is where the peace lies, because possessions can glitter and still leave the soul restless. Honor can rise and fall with human voices. Long life itself is not peace if the path is crooked within. But wisdom, holy wisdom, the wisdom that listens to God, the wisdom that trusts rather than leans on itself, the wisdom whose ways are pleasantness and whose paths are peace, That is a treasure the soul can rest in. Proverbs would later speak of wisdom as more precious than jewels, as life to those who find her, and as peace along the way. And here, in this dream, you can feel why. Wisdom is not presented as cold strategy. It is not a weapon. It is not a trophy. It is the gracious shaping of the heart by God. It is the ability to discern, the ability to walk carefully, the ability to judge rightly, to serve well, and to respond with understanding. And beneath all of that, it is the quiet recognition that God is the source of wisdom, the source of straight paths, the source of peace. There is one more part of the Lord's answer, and it too deserves a gentle place in our thoughts tonight. God speaks of walking in His ways, keeping His statutes and commandments, as David walked. Even here, wisdom is not detached from obedience. The listening heart is not merely inward and reflective. It is meant to walk, to move, and to live in God's ways. This is another deep comfort, because wisdom in Scripture is not abstract. It is lived peace. It is step-by-step faithfulness. It is knowing the next right thing, because the heart has learned to stay near the Lord. That means you do not need to possess the whole map tonight. You do not need to solve the whole future. Wisdom often comes as enough light for the next faithful step, enough clarity to walk in God's ways today, enough peace to release tomorrow into His hands, enough discernment to know that He is making the path straight even when the whole road is hidden. That is a mercy for tired hearts, because tired hearts often long for total certainty. But God so often gives something quieter and kinder. He gives Himself. He gives guidance. He gives presence. He gives wisdom for the path. It may not feel dramatic. It may not arrive as spectacle. But it is real. It is enough. It is peace-bearing. Before dawn begins to rise in the story, let us rest again. Let the dream remain still around us for one more moment. Let the holy question and the humble answer and the Lord's pleasure settle softly in your mind. Breathe slowly. You do not need to solve tomorrow tonight. You do not need to force wisdom into being. The Lord gives it. Imagine a calm path under starlight, a quiet path that does not demand running, only walking, only trust, only the nearness of God. Rest there. And now the dream begins to loosen, the way dreams do before morning. The sacred brightness grows thin. The words of the Lord remain, but the vision itself gently yields to waking. The night has not been wasted. Something deep and hidden has happened within it. Something has been given. And soon Solomon opens his eyes. Imagine the first moments of waking. The world is still soft at the edges. The air has changed again. There is that tender stillness that comes just before full morning gathers itself. Perhaps the stars are fading now. Perhaps the sky is only beginning to pale. Perhaps the world is hushed in that quiet hour when light has not yet fully claimed the land. And Solomon wakes. Scripture says, he awoke, and behold, it was a dream. How gentle that line is. It was a dream. And yet it was not less real for being so. Not empty, not meaningless, not a passing image to be forgotten with the dawn. A dream, yes, but also an encounter, a gift, a word from the Lord, a night in which wisdom was placed like a hidden seed inside the soul. How often God works in ways that feel quiet when they first arrive. A dream in the night, a whispered correction, a deepening peace, a new steadiness in the morning. Outwardly, not everything looks different right away. The same ground is beneath his feet. The same sky opens above him. The same responsibilities remain. The same people still need to be led. And yet, something has changed. The day is not the same, because Solomon is not the same. That is one of the most tender truths in the story. Sometimes God changes the day by first changing the heart that wakes into it, and that is often enough, perhaps more than enough, because if the heart has received wisdom, then the path itself has begun to change. Not because every obstacle has vanished, not because every decision has become easy, but because the person walking now does so with a different inward posture, a calmer posture, a humbler posture, a listening posture. Solomon rises into a changed day. You can imagine the stillness of those first waking moments. Perhaps he remains quiet for a while, holding the dream close in his spirit. Perhaps he lets the words settle. Ask what I shall give you. Give your servant a listening heart. It pleased the Lord. Such words are not rushed past by a soul that understands what has happened. Perhaps he sits in the cool of the morning and feels the quiet gratitude of one who knows he has been met by God. This, too, is a holy kind of peace, not excitement that scatters, not emotion that demands display, but deep gratitude, quiet reverence, the kind of inner stillness that comes when a person knows the Lord has spoken. Then Solomon does something beautiful when he wakes. He goes to Jerusalem. He stands before the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. He offers burnt offerings and peace offerings. He makes a feast for all his servants. How fitting that the dream opens into worship. How fitting that wisdom received in the night leads to thanksgiving in the morning. He does not wake and rush immediately into self-display. He wakes and turns again toward God. The listening heart listens still. The humble heart worships still. The grateful heart remembers the giver. It is lovely to imagine that journey into the new day, the quiet movement from Gibeon to Jerusalem, the sense that morning light now falls on a world that feels gently reoriented, the Ark of the Covenant before him, the place of the Lord's presence, Solomon standing there, not merely as a king, but as a servant of God, offering burnt offerings, offering peace offerings, and then a feast for his servants. There is something whole in that sequence. Worship, peace, shared goodness. It is as though the inward gift of wisdom begins immediately to shape outward life. It is as though the changed heart begins already to create a changed atmosphere. And perhaps it does, because wisdom is never meant to remain hidden as private brightness only. It bears fruit. It shapes tone. It affects others. It moves the soul toward worship and generosity and peace. So the day that follows the dream is not driven by panic. It is marked by gratitude, not by self-congratulation, but by reverence, not by noise, but by quiet fullness. And if your own heart longs for that kind of morning, let this part of the story comfort you. The Lord knows how to meet a soul in the night and bring it gently into a wiser day. He knows how to work in unseen hours. He knows how to plant peace before dawn. He knows how to let wisdom arrive without spectacle. You may go to sleep one way and wake with a new steadiness you cannot fully explain. Not because all of life has been solved, but because God has been near, because He has quietly reordered the heart, because He has reminded you that the path does not depend only on your own understanding. That is such a mercy especially for those who carry anxiety into the night. Anxiety wants total control before rest. It wants every uncertainty removed. It wants proof that tomorrow will obey us. But wisdom whispers something softer and truer. Trust in the Lord. Acknowledge Him. Do not lean only on what you can grasp. He knows the path. He makes straight what seems tangled. He gives peace, not always by revealing every answer, but by becoming the faithful guide. Solomon wakes into that kind of world, a world where God has spoken, a world where the path ahead is no longer only a burden, but a place where wisdom may walk. And perhaps we can rest there for a while longer, in the gentle morning light of the story. Imagine the sky now fully warming toward day. Imagine the hush giving way, not to chaos, but to quiet activity. Imagine Solomon carrying within him something steady and clean. Not pride, not self-importance, but gratitude. A listening heart has a different texture from a grasping one. It feels softer, clearer, less frantic, more teachable, and more anchored. Perhaps that is part of the gift the listener is meant to receive tonight. Not merely admiration for Solomon's request, but an invitation into the same posture, to wake into life as one who is teachable before God, to walk into responsibilities with humility rather than fear, to carry uncertainty without being devoured by it, to seek wisdom as a gift, to seek peace in the path of wisdom. Let the morning in the story become very gentle around you now. The dream has passed into waking. The question has become a gift. The gift has become worship. And now the story widens, not into noise, but into reflection. What is this path of wisdom that Solomon has stepped onto? What kind of peace lives there? What does it mean to have a heart that listens to God? This is where Proverbs begins to feel like morning light laid across a quiet road. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, not part of your heart, not only the strong parts, not only the parts that seem composed, all your heart, the tired heart, the uncertain heart, the grieving heart, the overthinking heart, the heart that lies awake trying to make the future safer by rehearsing it, the heart that wants peace and does not know how to manufacture it. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. That is not a harsh command tonight. It is an invitation into rest. It is a gentle loosening of clenched hands. It is a quiet release. Trust in the Lord, because the Lord is trustworthy, because his wisdom is not fragile, because his care does not flicker with your moods, because his guidance is not exhausted by your questions, because he does not sleep in anxiety over the path ahead, and because he sees farther than you do. Do not lean on your own understanding. Again, not a harsh word, a merciful one. It frees you from trying to be your own perfect guide. It releases you from worshiping your own perspective. It reminds you that there is another who sees more clearly. Solomon's beauty in the dream was not that he had no understanding at all. It was that he refused to lean on his own understanding as though it were enough. He brought his limits into the presence of God. He acknowledged that he needed more than himself. That is wisdom. Perhaps one of the deepest peaceful things you can do tonight is to stop insisting that your own mind must carry everything. Your mind is a gift, but it is not your God. Your understanding matters, but it is not the final light. There is rest in letting God be wiser than you. There is peace in letting him hold what you cannot fully hold. There is gentleness in stepping back from the exhausting task of trying to force every answer. In all your ways, acknowledge him. All your ways, the public ways and the hidden ways. The decisions that feel large and the hours that feel ordinary. The responsibilities you carry for others. The quiet thoughts no one hears. The plans, the fears, the uncertainties, the hopes. Acknowledge him there. Invite him there. Notice him there. That is what Solomon did. He brought leadership before the Lord. He brought uncertainty before the Lord. He brought the weight of his calling before the Lord. He acknowledged God in that place, and the Lord met him there. He will make straight your paths. What a soft promise. Not always fast, not always obvious, but faithful. Straight paths do not mean easy lives. They mean guided lives. Lives that are not abandoned to chaos. Lives that are not left to wander alone. Lives that are shepherded by the wisdom of God. Imagine a path through gentle hills at dawn. It does not twist in confusion forever. It opens. It leads onward. There may be places you cannot yet see from where you stand, but the one who guides you is already there. He makes straight your paths, not because you have mastered everything, but because you have entrusted yourself to Him. This is the peace of wisdom, not omniscience, not control, not the illusion that nothing difficult will ever come, but the assurance that the Lord leads the listening heart. And Proverbs goes on in this same beautiful spirit. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord. Turn away from evil. How calm that sounds when spoken softly. Do not be trapped inside the small room of your own self-importance. Do not worship your own instincts. Let reverence open the windows. Let humility freshen the air. Let the fear of the Lord reorder the soul, because the fear of the Lord, in its holy and tender sense, is not panic. It is reverence. It is seeing God as God. It is letting Him be the center. It is the kind of awe that leads to peace, because everything no longer depends on the self. And then Proverbs speaks of wisdom almost like a gentle companion. Blessed is the one who finds wisdom. Her ways are ways of pleasantness. All her paths are peace. What a sentence for bedtime. All her paths are peace. Not frantic striving, not noisy display, not grasping ambition. Peace, pleasantness, a soul walking in rhythm with God. That does not mean there are no burdens. It means burdens are carried differently. It means the heart has learned where to rest its weight. It means the path, though real and sometimes demanding, is no longer godless. It is walked with guidance. It is walked with listening. It is walked with nearness. So Solomon's dream becomes more than an old event in the night. It becomes a window into the kind of life God loves to shape, a life rooted in humility, a life turned toward wisdom, a life that seeks discernment over self-exaltation, a life that moves from worship into sleep, from sleep into divine encounter, from encounter into gratitude, and from gratitude into the peace-bearing path of wisdom. There is nothing hurried in that, nothing flashy, only goodness, only holy quiet, only a heart learning to listen. Maybe that is what makes this story so perfect for the tired end of the day. Because the world is very loud about many things. Loud about achievement, loud about influence, loud about success and image and certainty and endless performance. But God meets Solomon in the quiet and honors something else. He honors humility. He honors dependence. He honors the prayer for wisdom. He honors the listening heart. And if your own heart has been worn thin by the noise of the world, this is a very healing truth. You do not need to become loud to be close to God. You do not need to impress Him. You do not need to perform strength that you do not possess. You may come to Him as you are. You may come with need. You may come with uncertainty. You may come with the simple prayer, Lord, give me a listening heart. And that prayer is beautiful to Him. It pleases the Lord. Let that sentence be a blanket over your thoughts for a moment. It pleases the Lord when you seek wisdom. It pleases the Lord when you ask to walk rightly. It pleases the Lord when you want discernment more than image. It pleases the Lord when you come honestly and say, I do not know how to go out or come in without you. What a kind God He is, not merely tolerating the humble, but delighting in them. Not merely permitting the dependent to approach, but welcoming them. Not merely answering with duty, but answering with generosity. This is why the story feels like a place to lie down, because the God at the center of it is good, and the path He offers is peace-bearing, and the wisdom He gives is not cold, but life-giving. It steadies the soul. It quiets the frantic mind. It teaches the heart to breathe in trust. If your own life feels full of decisions, responsibilities, or heavy unknowns, you do not have to answer all of them in one night. You only have to place them in the light of God's wisdom, one by one if needed, quietly, without force, without panic. Lord, give me a listening heart. Lord, teach me the next faithful step. Lord, let me trust you more than my own understanding. Lord, make straight the path. These are peaceful prayers, and the Lord is near to hear them. Let us slow again before moving into the final descent of the story. Imagine first light spread gently across a path, not bright enough to strain the eyes, just enough to walk by, just enough to know you are not lost. Let that image rest in your mind. God is already present in the morning you have not yet reached. He is there before you. He holds the path. He knows the way. You can rest. Now the story grows even quieter. The major movements have all happened. The night at Gibeon, the dream, the request for wisdom, the Lord's pleasure, the changed day. And now what remains is the deepest part for sleep, the gentle return of the heart to stillness. So let us return slowly to the images that have carried us, the quiet hills around Gibeon beneath a star-filled sky, the sacred hush after worship, Solomon lying down at the end of the day, not with all the answers, but with a heart turned toward God, the dreamlike glow in the night, the Lord's gentle question, "Ask what I shall give you," Solomon's humble remembrance of mercy, his honest confession of limitation, his beautiful request, "Give your servant a listening heart." The Lord's delight, it pleased the Lord. The gift of wisdom, the first light of morning, the worship that followed waking, the peaceful path of trust. Let those images pass slowly before your mind, one at a time, like lanterns spaced along a quiet road, and as they pass, let your own soul rest more deeply. You do not need to hold every image tightly. You do not need to remember each phrase. You only need to receive the peace beneath them. The peace of a God who comes near in the night. The peace of a God who is pleased by humility. The peace of a God who gives wisdom. The peace of a path made straight by trust. Perhaps now your breathing is slower than when we began. Perhaps your thoughts are less sharp at the edges. Perhaps the story has done what gentle scripture stories often do, not solve everything, but soften the soul. That is enough. More than enough. Because bedtime peace is rarely built by force. It comes by gentleness, by surrender, by returning again and again to the nearness of God. So if there is still some worry tucked inside you tonight, you do not need to fight it angrily. Just lay it down softly. Let it come out of your hands. Let it be held by the Lord. You can even imagine placing it beside Solomon's simple prayer, not as something solved, but as something surrendered. Lord, give me a listening heart. There is so much safety in that prayer. A listening heart does not have to know everything. It only has to stay near the Lord. A listening heart does not have to control the future. It only has to trust the one who holds it. A listening heart does not have to be loud. It can be quiet, still, receptive, and at peace. Maybe that is the great beauty of the story for those who lie awake at night. It tells us that the path toward peace is not found in thinking harder and harder until the mind collapses into exhaustion. It is found in turning toward God, in remembering His faithfulness, in admitting our limits, in asking for wisdom, and in trusting Him more than our own understanding. What if tonight can be simpler than your fears have made it? What if tonight is not the night to solve, but the night to listen? What if the holiest thing you can do in this moment is not to strive, but to rest under the gaze of God? He knows what you need before morning comes. He knows what the next day holds. He knows the people you care for. He knows the decisions you fear. He knows the grief you carry. He knows the questions that have no easy shape yet. He knows. And he is not troubled by his knowledge. He is steady. He is kind. He is present. He has room for your life inside his wisdom. So return with me now, one last time, to Gibeon. The night is still. The air is cool. The sacred place rests in silence. The stars are patient overhead. Solomon sleeps after worship. The Lord comes near in a dream. Ask what I shall give you. And from the quiet center of a humble heart comes the answer that pleases heaven. Give your servant a listening heart. What if that prayer becomes yours now? Softly, almost like breathing. Not a heavy prayer, a restful one. Lord, give me a listening heart. A heart that hears you in the quiet. A heart that trusts you more than fear. A heart that does not lean only on itself. A heart that can rest in your wisdom. A heart that knows your paths are peace. Lord, give me a listening heart. And as you pray that, even silently, notice how little strain there is in it. Nothing to perform, nothing to impress. Only surrender, only trust. Only a small human heart opening itself to a faithful God. This is one of the Lord's sweetest works. He does not merely give direction. He forms hearts. He teaches souls to listen. He shapes the inward life until peace can take root there, until wisdom begins to feel like home, until obedience is not frantic but gentle and clear, until the path, though still unfolding, is no longer frightening in the same way, because the Lord is on it, because He is making it straight, because His wisdom walks beside you. Maybe now the details of the story are beginning to blur softly, which is perfectly all right. Maybe the lines between the hills of Gibeon and the room you are in are blending in a calm and sleepy way. Maybe the words are becoming less like ideas and more like a blanket of peace. Let them. That is part of the gift. You do not have to hold everything sharply. Let it soften. Let it become restful. Let the night deepen around you. Let the story become almost like a lullaby of Scripture. The Lord is near. The Lord is kind. The Lord is pleased by the listening heart. The Lord gives wisdom. The Lord makes straight the path. The Lord brings peace. You are not alone in the night. You are not responsible to illuminate the whole future. You are not abandoned to your own understanding. The God who met Solomon in the dream is the same God who watches over you now. He has not changed. His wisdom has not dimmed. His goodness has not thinned with time. His care has not become uncertain. He is still the faithful guide, still the giver of wisdom, still the keeper of those who trust Him, still the one whose paths are peace. And so, as sleep draws closer, let your mind rest on simpler and simpler truths. God is with me. God is wise. God sees the path. God welcomes my need. God is pleased by a humble heart. God gives what I need for the next step. God can do quiet work in the night. God can bring peace into the morning. God can shape my heart while I rest. Perhaps tonight you do not even need to ask for many things. Perhaps one prayer is enough. Lord, give me a listening heart. And then let the prayer become softer still. Listening heart. Peaceful path. Sacred quiet. Gentle wisdom. Faithful God. These are good night words. These are restful words. These are words that do not demand striving from you. They only open the door to trust. Imagine now the morning that followed Solomon's dream, but imagine it from a distance, softly, as though it is wrapped in golden haze. A young king waking. A new steadiness within him. A journey toward worship. Offerings of gratitude. Peace offerings. a feast prepared, and over all of it, the quiet evidence that something beautiful had happened in the unseen hours. So too with you, the Lord can do beautiful things in the unseen hours. He can loosen fear. He can settle the heart. He can make room for peace. He can prepare you for tomorrow, not by giving you control over it, but by giving you Himself within it. That is a better gift, a deeper gift, a sleep gentle gift. And if you wake in the night again, or if your mind tries once more to gather all its questions into a heavy bundle, return here, return to Gibeon, return to the stillness, return to the humble prayer, return to the God who delights in wisdom, return to the path of peace. You do not have to go far. He is near. He is already near. Now the story has almost fully dissolved into quiet. Nothing more needs to be built. Nothing new needs to be said. Only peace remains, only stillness, only the soft echo of a holy night and a humble request. Solomon asleep in sacred quiet. The Lord speaking in a dream. A listening heart, a changed morning. Wisdom for the path. Peace. So rest now beneath the kindness of God. Rest beneath His wisdom. Rest beneath His patient care. Rest knowing that He sees the road ahead more clearly than you do. Rest knowing that He is not asking you to carry the whole future tonight. Rest knowing that the heart that listens to Him is precious in His sight. Rest knowing that His ways are gentle and His paths are peace. And if your thoughts become fewer now, let them. If the story begins to feel far away, let it drift kindly. If sleep comes near, welcome it. You are held. You are watched over. You are not alone in the dark. The Lord who gave wisdom in the night is with you in this night too. He is with your breathing. He is with your waiting. He is with your weariness. He is with the things you could not finish today. He is with the things you do not yet understand. He is with the path ahead, and He is not hurried. So you do not need to be hurried either. Let the day go. Let tomorrow stay with God until it arrives. Let your heart become quiet. Let it listen. Let it rest. The beauty of a listening heart is not that it has mastered life. The beauty of a listening heart is that it has turned toward the Lord. And that is enough for tonight. More than enough. The sacred quiet of Gibeon lingers. The dreamlike glow has softened into darkness again. The first light of Solomon's morning has long since risen in the story, but for you now there is only peaceful night. A peaceful night under the care of God. A peaceful night where wisdom does not have to be grasped because it is given. A peaceful night where the path does not have to be forced open because the Lord makes it straight. A peaceful night where the soul can lie down and be held. So breathe slowly, rest deeply, trust gently, and sleep in the presence of the God who is pleased by a listening heart. Sleep now in sacred quiet, and let the Lord hold the path before you.